We'll now call the roll. Commissioner President Wyatt.
Present.
Commissioner Vice President Webb.
Present.
Commissioner Andrews.
Present.
Commissioner Gray.
President, my apologies for being late.
Commissioner Dr. Harris.
Present.
Commissioner Hembry.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Malone. Commissioner Malone. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Also present tonight in attendance, we have Mr. Rashawn K. Hassan, Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Cameron E. Cox, Chief Financial Officer, Board Secretary, Dr. Mark A. Williams, Chief of School Management, Dr. Elizabeth Filipatos, Chief of Student Services, Dr. Jean Gordon, Chief of Instruction and Programs, Chief Carletta Jones, Chief of Human Resources, Chief Chris Payne, Chief of Information Technology, Chief Vashawn L. Hill, Chief of Marketing and Communications, Dr. Danielle Mastro Giovanni, Chief of Equity and School Improvement, Ms. Khalifa Shabazz, General Counsel, Mr. Jeffrey A. Morton, Assistant Board Secretary. Madam President, we do have a quorum. I will read the welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the public hearing and final adoption of the 2025-2026 budget meeting for the Plainfield Board of Education. Members will hope that you will find this meeting interesting and informative. We thank you for taking the time out to attend. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the media and public consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that the advance notice required therein has been provided to the Courier News on Thursday, April 17th, 2025, to be advertised on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, and also provided to the Plainfield Public Schools District website, the Plainfield City Clerk, Police Department, and Plainfield Public Library for posting. Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. All right. First, I'd like to say welcome. Thank you all for coming this evening. I see a lot of you here this evening. I'm sure we have a lot of people online virtually, and I appreciate your presence this evening as we look to host this public hearing and final adoption of the 2025-26 budget. I do have a few remarks that I'm going to share to address the public, as we absolutely anticipated having you all here this evening. And as I said, we appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining us, and I want to begin by acknowledging what many of us already know. I'm going to get straight to the point and share that this has not been a smooth or a typical budget process. Definitely hasn't been a process of which we've endured since I've been on the board. And I'd like to say that that's a testament to our administration, our superintendent and business administrator and his assistant business administrator and the finance staff, the business office. Unlike in years past, the journey to tonight has been marked by tough conversations, heightened concerns by all of our constituents, all of our staff and community members, and a deep reflection from all of the stakeholders that involved has been considered. It hasn't been easy, but this is definitely a conversation and process that is absolutely necessary. We've heard your concerns. We've heard it from the community. We've heard it from you all, the staff. We've heard it from your union leadership, and we have taken them seriously. We've carefully reviewed the budget, considered every angle, and engaged in thoughtful dialogue with the administration to evaluate the impact of every decision with every option presented to us. When it comes to the issue of the tax levy increase, the board thoroughly reviewed and considered all of the options. At the preliminary budget hearing, you all were not here, but I'm sure that you've heard that we were presented with scenarios of which we initially chose the lesser of the two. After the hearing, we heard a multitude of different concerns, decided to dive deeper, asked for the administration to dive deeper into the budget, and we had numerous discussions revolve around that. Very in-depth conversations with the administration, which ultimately led to the decision to introduce more options inclusive of lesser amounts, which included the 2% presented by the superintendent and a 0% tax levy increase. At our April business meeting on the 15th, we revised the preliminary budget to include a 0% tax levy increase to be presented to the county. That decision was not made lightly, and we remain committed to exhausting all options to ensure that we are fiscally responsible moving forward. Tonight, we are here to see how we can maintain that balanced budget and move forward with the funding we have available. And I want to be clear that, as stated previously, we are not and have not been in a budget crisis. Mr. Hassan previously, along with his administration, presented the budget, proposed the budget, and no matter which path that we chose, we are still committed to making that work and believe that the administration will make it work. I want to acknowledge something that is very powerful tonight because you all are here present. We have more union members in this room than we've seen at any other board meeting, at least since I've been on the board. Again, I can only attest to that. And at most of our district events that we are a part of, we try to be as engaging as we possibly can as a board, and we love when we see that same level of engagement from the staff across the district. Your presence speaks volumes about your dedication, your passion, and your willingness to advocate for what you believe is right, and that advocacy matters. I want to just urge you, though, to bring the same energy, the same presence, and that same commitment to future board meetings that aren't surrounded around personnel issues or the budget, and to spaces and events where we would love your support and where our youth need to see all of you just as much, just as they see you inside of their schools and in the classrooms. Your voices and support and your presence are very much appreciated and go a long way outside of the classroom and the schools and positions of which you work. I want to be clear that the board is not working against you, nor is the administration. We want to work with you. We do work with you, and we want to continue to work with you. It's unfortunate that at times the budget process has been misinterpreted or misunderstood, or maybe not as clearly articulated as it could have been. You may or may not agree with all of the decisions, but please know that any proposed reductions will be explained with full transparency throughout this presentation this evening. And when all is said is done, I believe that you will see that the administration and the board have worked together in good faith to ensure that we've supported our staff without compromising our overall and collaborative goals and the success of our students during these uncertain times. This process may not have been easy, and I believe it has made us stronger as a board, as a district, and as a community. We have an opportunity tonight to move forward together. I want us to focus on the collaboration and not division. Let's keep the lines of communication open and not closed, and most importantly, let's continue to make decisions that serve the best interests of the students, families, and the community that the board was elected to serve, and we all were entrusted to serve. That is all I have for this evening. Again, I just want to thank you all, and I hope that you get the clarity that you need and deserve this evening throughout the budget process and through your questions and public comment. Mr. Hassan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome.
Where is he? There.
Are we good, Mr. Gore? We definitely aren't making any cuts to our IT supplies and technology. So, again, as Madam President stated, it's a pleasure to see so many of us out this evening. And while we are all here to, hear about the next phase of our budget, I think we're also here to have a greater understanding and to really talk about leadership, right? How will our school district be led moving forward? How will we respond as an administration to a 0% tax levy increase? Our goal is to continue to move Plainfield Public Schools forward and to provide the best educational experience to our students under every circumstance possible. But I will tell you, my administration is up to the challenge to make sure that we're able to do that with minimal impact to our organization, but that we're able to still build on that momentum that we've been able to collectively gain over the last few years, and I look forward to continuing on that path. Right. So here's a brief recap or overview of where we started in our budget process or timeline. Contrary to what you may hear in the media or out in conversations that take place in the streets, our budget development process didn't just start in March, it actually started in November. When all of the noise started to circulate in Washington, D.C., when we were informed that, President Trump was reelected and, he was going to move forward with a number of executive orders, we moved forward aggressively as an administration. I issued a directive to our chief financial officer setting budget parameters, which called for 15% reduction across all departmental budgets for non-salary items. We also put an immediate hiring freeze in place for any positions that we deem to be non-essential in our organization, and we moved forward without backfilling those roles. Any costs that we were able to defer for the 24-25 school year, we were very aggressive about holding the line on those expenses because we knew that we had to be very intentional about also building up our reserves or surplus, which I believe we will need in future budget years. And you've heard me talk about that on multiple occasions. But as we've progressed and we move forward to our preliminary budget hearing, which took place on March 18th, during that meeting, myself and Mr. Cox delivered the preliminary budget, and with that, we proposed a few scenarios, but the one that I really asked the board to strongly consider and approve was a scenario that included a minimum or baseline tax increase of 2%, but also allowed us to utilize $9 million of bank cap. And I want to take a moment to just talk to everyone and explain what bank cap is. As an organization, as a school district, we are required to develop a budget that funds our school district at a level that the state calls adequacy. Very important, right? The state comes up with a calculation and they say, Plainfield Public School District, if you want to adequately fund your school district and provide a thorough and efficient education to your students, your spending must be at this adequacy level. Now, how do we get to that level? The state provides us with what we call equalization aid, right? So that's the state covering their fair share. But then we as a school district or a community are also responsible for covering a fair share of the budget. Here in Plainfield, as of today, that number is $65 million. However, through our local tax levy, we only contribute $26 million. So that leaves a funding gap from our local fair share of $39 million. So to close that gap, because I do believe that it's something that has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed, if not this year, definitely in the upcoming school years, that is why I made that recommendation and the board supported it at that particular time. As we move forward in this process, everything that's played out, I believe is something that should happen. Once you receive a proposal, from that point on, we arrive at this tonight, which is the final adoption of our budget. So during that time when the board actually approved that preliminary or that proposal, that allowed us an opportunity to hear from members of the public, to get feedback from commissioners, and to also come back to the table with different scenarios. So on March 25th, I came back to the board with another proposal that showed a reduction of $4.6 million. That completely reduced the use of any bank cap. And then at our April 2025 business meeting, the board voted for a 0% tax levy increase. And I was then asked to come back to the table after making an additional $4.9 million in reductions. And that brings us here to tonight's final budget hearing. And I will show you all the approximate $9.5 million in spending reductions that my administration have been able to come up with in our budget. I want to start by stating that many of the reductions that I'm about to highlight, these are not expenses that go away. They're simply being deferred to a future fiscal year, right? And at times we have to go back to the drawing board, we have to reprioritize, and we've gone through that exercise a number of times, and this is the final output of those exercises. First and foremost, we've highlighted $5.8 million in capital project reductions. Over the last few years, our administration has been probably one of the most aggressive in the state of New Jersey with upgrading our facilities. Mr. Cox will be able to show later on in the presentation how we've spent in some school years $14 million for capital upgrades, and in some school years up to $21 million in capital upgrades. What we're saying here is that we found a way to reduce that by $5.8 million. That will allow us to defer those projects to future years. And some of those projects include the following: ADA compliance ramps at Hubstein Field, replacing boilers at the new property that's going to be the administrative building, the former Buff property that we are in the process of closing on, and the Phase 1 conversion of 1200 Myrtle Avenue back to an elementary school. At the same time, we've presented to the board and to the community a demographic study that was completed and presented in January that shows that we are absolutely busting at the seams as it relates to space, particularly across our middle schools. And if there are any teachers here or staff members from Maxon, from Hubbard, you know exactly what we're talking about across those spaces. So for us to upgrade the 1200 Myrtle Avenue building to bring it back online as a school, that project is severely needed in our school district because it's going to help us reduce the overcrowding. It helps you all as staff members, but that's what, it also helps those babies whose parents entrust us to provide them with a thorough and efficient education each and every day. Our job is to want for our children in the school district the same that we want for ours. And I will tell you, as a superintendent of schools, I do not want my children in overcrowded classrooms, schools that don't have space, and I don't want their teachers in those spaces either. Because teachers who show up to school frustrated because they don't have space, they can't focus on my babies the way I need them to. And I think that everyone in this room can attest to that. Moving forward to our utility and service savings. We found savings that equate to roughly $317,000 by leveraging the district's energy savings improvement plan. So for our staff members, you may have seen our construction managers out working in your buildings. Some of you may have seen the dark tint films being placed on your classroom windows. That is to hopefully help us reduce energy. You may have seen the new lighting that's being put into our school facilities, and there are more energy upgrades that are occurring as well, and we estimate that we're going to be able to save an additional $317,000. In the area of instruction and programs, we're making $780,000 in reductions. We are stepping away from one of our initiatives that we've been working on for the last 2 years, and that is to focus on a classroom model initiative, which would allow us to go through our school district and systematically upgrade classrooms with new furniture, et cetera. It is something that we still value as a priority, but we have to shift that to a future year, given the constraints that we're experiencing at this time. We are also going to defer the introduction of a new student leadership program, and we made a slight reduction to some instructional supplies because we found them to be a redundancy in the budget. Now, for those of you wondering, does that mean we will no longer have student leadership programs? No, that is not the case. We currently have our Leader in Me program, which is in some of our elementary schools. We heard great feedback. We're going to continue to ramp that program up. We also have Ready, Set, Grow, which is providing support across our middle schools. And we also have the 21st Century Future Leaders program, which is supporting students across the high school. So we do have programs in place. We'll continue to leverage those programs, but we will not bring new student leadership programs online in the 25-26 school year. Moving on to transportation and travel. So district travel will remain flat. And this travel that I'm speaking to really relates to us as an administrative team, the board, conferences that we attend, which is really our professional development. But if we're asking to make reductions throughout our organization, everyone has to have a little skin in the game. And this is an area that we looked really closely at. So we're going to, again, keep the travel flat, keeping in mind that we also have to provide reimbursements for team members who use their vehicles to travel from location to location or to attend state, county, or even local meetings that might be outside of their normal reporting location. We've also taken a closer look at our bids for transportation services and have been able to make some adjustments there. And we're going to aggressively offer parent contracts for parents who may wish to transport their children to school on their own, and we will provide them with an annual payment or biannual payment as a school district. It's a strategy that we haven't leveraged in the past, but this is something that we see used throughout the state of New Jersey. We will provide information sessions for parents who wish to take advantage of this opportunity and do everything that we can to support them. The last area, and I think this is the area that everyone has been really waiting to hear about, this really focuses on staff reductions or reimagining how we utilize some of our personnel in our district. And I want to start by just highlighting the role of our instructional support team members. I've done my job in terms of rounding, and for those of you who don't know, rounding is a skill or tool that we use here in the district as a leadership team to get information from team members about how projects are working or whether they have roadblocks, barriers, or obstacles. I'm going to tell you one thing I know for sure is that instructional coaches are valued in the organization, right? I have yet to have a conversation with a principal, an instructional supervisor who tells us that there's no value there. However, we do believe that there's an opportunity for us to reimagine how instructional coaches are providing support, particularly when we have vacancies. So our strategy is to reassign our instructional coaches to fill the vacancies that we currently have on the books. However, we will provide them with an annual stipend to provide instructional coaching support outside of the normal classroom hours. So what would that look like for us? We have those Monday meetings that we're always having, right? That I think some of you have told me aren't always a value add, but could also be modified or remixed a little bit so that you can get a greater value from that. We have our monthly PD sessions, and we also have our PLCs. I want to tell you that if our instructional coaches are the master teachers and the great leaders of instructional practices that we believe they are, as a superintendent, I'm telling you this with 100% certainty, I need more students to have greater access to those individuals, right? And I think that, again, by moving with this approach and this strategy, our team members still have a meaningful job, and I think a well-paying job based on the collective bargaining agreement that we've been able to push forward in the school district and that we've been committed to funding over the life of that collective bargaining agreement. The next area is refining the ratio of our professional school counselors to students. Listen, we went all in on this because we as an administration, we as a school community believe in the support that our students need across our secondary schools. Our ratio today is one professional school counselor for every 150 students across our secondary schools. Those are some of the lowest ratios that you will see in the United States of America. I put those numbers up against any school district, any state. However, we believe that by refining that ratio and changing it to 1 to 200, it will still give us the level of support that we need, and it'll allow us to release some of the pressure that we are seeing in the budget. And lastly, we're going to ensure compliance ratios for our custodial services to make sure that we are in fact in compliance with having a ratio of one custodian for every 17,500 square feet across each of our school facility buildings. And that also means that we have to be flexible, and we also have to provide them with greater investments to make sure that their tools that they're using to perform their jobs each and every day are the best, and that we're leveraging technologies to make their jobs easier. We need our team members to be out here working smarter and not harder, and that's the onus is on us as an administration to make that happen for them. So in total, these proposed reductions equate to $9,585,123. Moving on to the next slide. Reiterating again what our capital project reductions are. The relocation of the board office to the Buff facility, we're going to decrease the initial investment that's made into that transition. Our goal is to basically get that building up and ready so that we can go in and take over that building as an administrative team. It is not to be fancy, it is not to be a luxury suite. It is so that we could go in and we can do our job, all right? But over time, there are things that we're deferring that we have to revisit, such as boiler replacements, a roof replacement for that facility, et cetera. I've already talked about the ADA compliance on our ramps. And aside from that, the projects that we will pursue are all projects that are identified in the district's long-range facilities plan that we prioritize as impacting the health and safety of our students and staff. Talked about, again, our utility services, a little more details here, reductions into some of our cabling projects, and some of our software subscriptions. Now, I want to highlight the cabling project and what that means for us as a school district. The Office of Information Technology has done a great job of making sure that we have one of the best networks and infrastructures in place. And I think we've been doing a good job as an administration of making those investments, but we're asking them to give a little back. So we're going to slow up the pace slightly on some of the cabling projects. But again, this doesn't mean that these projects don't get completed. It just means that we have to make some deferrals until future years. We've already discussed, again, a reduction in funding to our class model initiatives, the student leadership programs, and some of our instructional supplies. What does that mean for you as a frontline employee? You will, in fact, have all of the curriculum materials that you need. All of those materials, as you know, are purchased centrally in our school district. So the school-based budgets that we provide for principals never have to go out and order curriculum material. They never have to order textbooks. These are all purchases that we make centrally as a school district. It also means that your per classroom allocation that you normally receive for your ed data orders, right? Everybody familiar with those? That is not touched. You'll still receive that same level of funding, but I would ask that as you go through that process and you have these discussions with your principals, be very clear about those things that you need to help you differentiate that educational experience for the students in your classroom. We've talked about transportation, and what I want to highlight here is that as a school district, we cannot continue to do things the way we've always done them, because if we do, we will always get the results we always got. Innovation has helped us move Plainfield Public Schools forward, and it will continue to help us move Plainfield Public Schools forward. So this area of providing transportation contracts to families, yeah, we are taking a step out of there. We're taking a step on faith, hoping that our families trust us in this process, and we hope that they collaborate with us and take advantage of this opportunity. And again, just a one-time revisit of what we just discussed with our human capital reductions or restructuring. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our CFO to walk us through our revenue and appropriations for the proposed budget.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Again, greetings all. I want to bring our attention to that true impact that we talked about when we continued our conversations relative to the revenue streams and appropriations for the budget post the March 18th preliminary budget. As you see on March 18th, at the conclusion of that meeting, the local tax levy, in an effort to utilize some of the bank cap that was generated from previous years where taxes had not been raised, as well as to get closer to the adequacy, to get away from the heavy dependence on state aid. The local tax levy stood at $35,538,911. We had our tuition for students that pay the district tuition to come in, our interest on investments, and I want to clarify this because I believe there was some conversation. Our interest on our investments is a funding stream that we leverage by getting daily sweep interest on our deposits in our district's bank accounts relative to our local general operating accounts. And so from all local services, including miscellaneous revenues generally associated with when people come to rent our facilities, our local revenues stood at $36,665,835. Our state aid numbers are attached there in the middle. That has not changed. That will not change as a part of our state aid award directly from the state. For total revenues of $327,056,642. I want to bring your attention to our usage of budgeted fund balance, which represents excess surplus above the state allowed 2%, as well as unassigned fund balance, and then the initial withdrawal of $1.1 million in capital reserve, as well as $1 million in maintenance reserve, with a total reserve from surplus or reserve accounts totaling $11,236,484, which brought us to our total revenues from the preliminary budget of $338,293,129. Now, as we stand here, we've heard, we've collaborated, and then we've adjusted. The revised preliminary budget numbers were approved at the April 15th meeting, which now you can see reflect a 0% tax levy increase for the district, bringing it back to $26,018,540, which will now represent a 7th year in a row of 0% tax levy increase to the taxpayers in Plainfield. From local streams, those numbers have not changed one bit. This was not a part of the scenario that we were reconsidering post the March 18th meeting, which gives our revenue for local sources at $27,145,568. Our numbers directly from the state, which are a part of our state aid award, have not changed, giving our total revenue $317,536,271. You will see a slight decrease in the use of budgeted fund balance due to the necessary cuts. We were allowed to put a little bit of money back into unassigned fund balance, which will ultimately help us in future years with making sure that we can adequately support the budget. And the total revenues being $327,927,388. All right. And so Mr. Hassan alluded to when he gave me that directive earlier, much earlier in the school year than people may think, that we started discussing the budget. This is our special revenue account that we were warned, advised, you can use your semantic judgment on that one, about how districts should plan for the receipt of special revenues or grant funds. We were advised in most grant-funded areas directly from the state to budget 20 to 25% less than what we are typically anticipate receiving. To ensure that we could adequately fund and balance the budget, we went a more aggressive route of 30%. One that will help us with our future year projections so that we can see where we're going 2-3 years down the road, or we anticipate going 2-3 years down the road relative to what you've often heard referred to as the fiscal cliff, or the expiration sunsetting of some of those ESSER dollars and some of those COVID funds. And so this did not change from our March 18th budget, but we just bring it as a reminder to show, due to the percentage changes that you see. So in some of the areas, they are larger than 30%, which is what we discussed, but that's because the state had already notified us to anticipate a cut in that area. We went 30% below that. And this is a revised visual from the March 18th preliminary budget meeting, where we show how our expenses, and although in the 25-26 due to the cuts, it's gone slightly down or plateaued, as our expenses and our general operating budget have gone up, we have to also realize the sunsetting or the significant decreases relative to our special revenues. We were as high as in 21-22 at the height of the pandemic. when a lot of ESSER funds and COVID funding was free-flowing. We were as high as 66,702,330, and then we are projecting for the 25-26 school year to be down to a little over $30 million. And so as we go to our appropriations, on the 18th of March, we have our general appropriations that we had already preliminarily approved, totaling $293,129, and that was as we projected at the March 18th preliminary budget hearing. But then we had some cuts that were made to certain areas post those conversations and collaborations that equated to the budgetary cuts equivalent to the tax levy increase that was proposed. But I want to kind of clarify that you can't always just cut. And so on paper, because of the way the fund balance works and the way the withdrawal works, it looks like it's a little bit above that $9 million. And so you'll see the total, which includes school-wide contributions to benefits in Fund 15. We have $328,927,388. All right. And then we want to bring your attention to a previous slide that we have since updated since the March 18th preliminary budget hearing. We have, over the last few years, as we've done our budget presentations, we have shown relative to the proportion or percentage of our budget what salaries and benefits represent. And so we kept this slide, which shows the dark blue as what our budget or what the numbers are prior to our pass-through funding for non-public spending that comes to us as a pass-through entity to support our non-public schools, our charter school payments and such. And so we've done that, shown the 3-year trend, but we wanted to show the salaries and benefits reduction in this slide here that you'll see in yellow, that still, with the slight deduction, keeps us at still about 75%. Previously, at the March 18th agenda, we were at 75.4. Now we're at 75.35% of our total budget is allocated to salaries and benefits after pass-through. All right. And again, the preliminary snapshot from the March 18th agenda, preliminary budget meeting, excuse me, and then the reduction that is then seen here on April 29th to represent the cuts that were previously mentioned earlier by Mr. Hassan and myself. All right.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Cox. And this last slide here shows my proposed org chart. And in this org chart, making some slight changes. I think there's some redundancy that we identified in the organization, particularly with the offices of school management and the Office of Instruction and Programs. During the course of this year, we've realized that while there's some overlap, some of the feedback we received from our administrators during the course of the year, that it's been challenging sometimes, right? Receiving messages from one office about instructional strategies and approaches, and then receiving something different from another office. So we're looking to have greater alignment between those two departments. Also, as it relates to our Office of Equity and School Improvement, that office was started. We, at that time, had Chief Yvonne Broussas, who was the leader and really helped us get ourselves established with Phase 1. Upon her retirement, it was my decision to move some of the functions from her office to allow her replacement to get themselves acclimated and to really hone in on the equity framework that we would utilize in our school district. And what I'm simply proposing here in this org chart is to move those functions back into that office or that area. And those areas are the Office of Student Enrollment, the Equity Fellows, the data team, datum systems and testing group, and as well as our multilingual education program. Our view here in our school district is that every student is here as a general education student. No such thing as a special education student. No such thing as a bilingual student. Those are general education students who just receive additional services or supports, point blank period. We also see multilingual education as a matter of equity for the children that we support in our school district. When you disaggregate our data, it shows clearly that students who are just in our general education programs, they are outperforming students in all other groups. But guess what? We can't turn a blind eye to that and not level up the supports that we're providing those students. So the reason that we've decided to park that program in that office because it is a matter of equity and access for us. And when those students, whether they come from Honduras, whether they come from Egypt, once they show up here in Plainfield Public Schools, it's our responsibility to prepare them, to get them across the finish line, and to make sure that they are set up for success. And I believe that this gives us a greater opportunity to do so. These proposed reassignments, they don't cost us a thing. And the last thing I just highlighting, as a part of a previous conversation with board members, I did make a request for a chief of staff. The feedback that I received from the board members was that it would be more palatable to not just create a new position, but to allow for that function to be absorbed by an existing team member and providing them with additional supports. And this organization reflects me doing so in this proposal. Madam President, that ends our presentation. In addition to everything we've just discussed, I just want to review one more time the timeline. We've already passed our March 18th date. We did submit the preliminary budget to the county as requested during that timeline, but there was a little back and forth, and that required us to remain in constant communication with our executive county superintendent and our executive county business official. We did have additional committee meetings, and we are now here at tonight's public hearing and adoption for our budget. And the absolute deadline for Plainfield Public Schools for our administration to adopt our budget is May 14th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Thank you, Mr. Cox, for your presentation on the preliminary budget that was proposed so that we can have some clarity on what we're voting on tonight and have some discussion surrounding this budget. I will now entertain questions or comments from commissioners at this time. Commissioner Andrews?
I have just a few questions. The first one, and again, I know you did a really good job explaining this, so I just ask that you kind of give me a yes or no, just so I can, please. Do you anticipate or foresee any impact on what we have been able to provide students as far as services, trips, participation, national organizations, attendance at conferences going into next year?
Going into 25, 26?
Yes.
No.
Next question is, with these changes to the proposed budget, 0% tax increase requires us to potentially raise taxes in the future. Is it going to provide more of a shock than the previously proposed budget?
I would say, I think it depends. And here's what I mean by, I know you asked for a yes or no. I think it is a matter of how we handle that process. The last memo that I shared with the board was on April 17th. I requested and strongly recommended that we begin budget planning discussions like immediately to discuss impact for future years. I think if we don't handle that process appropriately, yes, it could be a shock. But we've been here for the last few years and have had the same conversation about the tax levy increase, and it's kind of become a thing for next year. I think at this point, if anyone kind of goes into next year and doesn't understand that that's coming, then they haven't been listening or paying attention to what's going on at the budget meetings and what's been playing out in the media.
All right, I appreciate that. Again, I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah.
My last question, given your conversation with county and state officials, what is the likelihood, I take a percentage, you expect increases in the budget next year?
I don't expect any increases to our budget next year. from the state funding, and that's what I mean. So on the state side, the state is, and I think this is a point of clarity for everyone. So when we hear the state should fully fund Plainfield Public School District, it means something different from a legal standpoint versus what is thought by the general public. I think for some individuals, when they say fully fund our school district, they think that means the state is supposed to cover the entire bill. The state is not supposed to cover the entire bill. The state is supposed to cover a significant portion through equalization aid, which we receive, but then we have to come up with the other revenue that we need in order to develop a fully balanced budget that also meets adequacy.
And so at this point, the state believes that they're fully funding on their end.
Yes, as it relates to the state funding formula. Now, unless the legislature comes in and they decide to approve or adopt another funding formula, that could cause changes for many school districts, Plainfield included, but that hasn't happened yet. At least one hasn't been approved.
Right. And again, we understand that there's a gubernatorial election, so that could be certain changes that might fall place there. With income holding the same, as we're looking at it from the school level, and I'm assuming costs like medical insurance, those things continue to increase year after year, as we've seen.
They do, but the increases that we experience as a school district are a lot lower than many of our counterparts throughout the state of New Jersey. So we entered what's called a health insurance fund that consists of Plainfield Public Schools, some municipalities, and other school districts. And as a result, we've been able to keep the increase in our benefits lower than the state plans. So there are school districts who've been seeing 12, 15% increases in their benefits, and some as high as 22, 23, but ours have really been around that 7 to 8% range. And I think we feel really good about that. Mr. Cox serves in that capacity, and a part of that role is to also help recruit other municipalities and school districts to join the HIF, because it helps keep our rates down as a member of that organization.
And again, just my, final question for right now, or comment. You said again that most of those items that you were deferring are just simply that they're ultimately going to have to be done at some point.
They will have to be done in the future year.
And again, just asking, because they have to be done in the future year, does that necessitate a larger tax increase down in the future?
I think the possibility of that happening, yes, absolutely. And I think anything will be greater than where we are now, but I think there's a real conversation about what that looks like, and based on the needs of the organization. You made a great point about increase of costs. Consumer price index has increased by 5%, and then also it's projected to increase by 3% next year. I mean, we're seeing it also in our households, right? The cost of bread, the cost of eggs. Those things also transfer to the school district. PSE&G, anybody? Got that letter, right? 17%, starting June 1st. So that will also hit our school district as well. And I think, to sum it up, a boiler replacement that might cost $300,000 this year might cost $500,000 next year. And those are things that are just out of our control.
All right. I have no more questions right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner
I'm
Andrews.
sorry, can I just say just one thing? Again, you know what, and I do want to take the time to say, I think, I understand you're in a difficult place. And again, I appreciate the clarity which you've come forward to explain the process to us. And I appreciate you being forthcoming in the question that I'm asking, because I know those can be difficult in trying to weave around to not offend and step on toes. So I just want to recognize that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrews, for your questions. Commissioner Gray, you have questions, right?
Hi.
Go ahead, you have the floor.
You hear me?
I think we hear you now. Say it again.
Mic check.
1, 2.
Here, you good.
All mics, I perform like Mike. Anyone, Tyson, Jordan, Jackson, hear me?
Got you.
All right. So the first thing I want to say is that I appreciate. You can't hear
Okay,
me?
maybe they can't. Try the mic over there. Try it over there.
Hello? Hear me? There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. So first thing I want to say is that I appreciate you guys going in depth and giving an in-depth presentation. I just wanted to, first question I wanted to ask, what are the credit bond rating implications for withdrawing money from the reserves?
So, great question. Great question. Really great question.
Yeah.
Really, really great question. So let me start with this. The Plainfield Public School District has an A bond rating, right? So that, and we've had that for 2 consecutive rating sessions through S&P, Standard & Poor's, right? So if we were in a position where we were going out and seeking an opportunity to leverage debt, that initiates that process where that evaluation starts for us as an organization. So that timeline could be accelerated based on an action that we took as a school district. So we just went through the process for the ESIP. I think we did it in prior years as a follow-up. But anytime you want to leverage debt, it initiates that process. And being over-leveraged is a problem. So if we show on our balance sheets that we don't have reserves, that is an absolute problem, and it will kill the district's bond rating.
So what's the downgrade from withdrawing money from? Like, if we're at a A plus, we're at AAA, right?
We're at an A, but
We're at A,
here's the
yeah.
thing, we don't control that, right? So Standard & Poor's could look at that and factor in potential future market conditions and volatility and say, well, because you don't have reserves and don't have, let's say, a plan to rebuild reserves, they could take it upon themselves and knock us down to a C. Like, we really have no control in that. Our job is to provide them with the plan, to show them how we are managing the district's fiscal resources. And if we are using any withdrawal funds from capital reserve, maintenance reserves, et cetera, we have to be able to show them a plan to replenish them. And if we're unable to do that, that will negatively impact the bond rating.
So is there a plan that currently exists to replenish the money that you intend to take from reserves?
So the funding that we are using, which is only about $2 million, we feel good about that, which is why in prior conversations I made it very clear that I was never proposing to withdraw or to draw down the reserve accounts. For that reason that you just stated, and second, because we know we will need them to renovate the 1200 Myrtle Avenue building to bring it back online as an elementary school. And again, I think that's a great question that you asked, because those are all considerations that we have to think about as an administration when proposing the budget. I think it's simple to balance the budget, right? To balance it, you just have to make sure that debits equal credits, right? And if you do that, that budget is balanced. But it also has to take into considerations, future projections for the market. I talked about potential volatility. What does the consumer price index look like? Will the district be in a position where it might try to leverage debt in future years? If so, do we have enough reserves to cover that? Those are all scenarios that we also considered as an administration.
And then, so my second question is related to the ability to leverage debt, which is the bonding authority.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a process in play in order to give the district back bonding, or give the district bonding authority, so it doesn't revolve around the SDA and doesn't revolve around the appropriations process?
So at this time, no, there isn't a mechanism in place that allows us to do it directly, but there are organizations like the Union County Municipal Authority that can finance on behalf of the district, right? I would say this, increasing debt, the repayment for the debt has to be guaranteed. Therefore, taxes have to be increased to ensure the repayment of the debt. If we don't have the money to pay the bill today, we wouldn't have it to pay the bill later. That's like going to get a credit card when you didn't have the money to pay your bill this month. Like, you find yourself overextended, and now you're in a position where you have to make even more challenging decisions, because the first piece that comes out of that pie is the debt obligation. You can't miss, as a school district, you can't miss a debt payment.
Right.
That comes off the top, and then everything else is later.
So I know the idea, and I'll end my inquiry, questioning here, but I know it was floated, the idea of you went from 36% to an 18% increase. And I think many members from the public just sort of said, this is sustainable for us, right? And it was a way, there was sort of a agreement that works, right? So what I'm trying to figure out is that at a 0% tax increase, it really doesn't help our communities out. Our communities, I mean, teachers. Oh, wow. Thank you for clapping. So at a 0% increase, that really doesn't help our communities out at all. Like teachers, my daughter relies on special education. I'm very transparent about that. And I just don't think a 0% tax increase works. I voted no initially because I felt that the state should provide a free and thorough appropriate education for each child. But what wasn't discussed was that we were at only funding it to the tune of 26 million and we needed to be at whatever, 65 million or something like that. Is that accurate, Commissioner?
Yeah, you know what, if you don't mind, I just want to just jump in for further clarity. I heard you say expectation is 65. We pay about 26 right now.
Right.
Correct? So that means we have about a $29 million gap between what that local expectation is?
39.
$39 million gap.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, that's bad math. I should be doing better. And in that $39 million gap, I'm assuming that gap, to Mr. Gray's point, is only going to grow by taking no action today.
Right.
So that $39 million gap doesn't remain same for next year. Next year to be a possible $42 million gap.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a possibility, but what I don't want to do on my end, I don't want to speculate what the state's funding formula is going to calculate, because that gets calculated by the DOE's budget software in terms of what the number is for adequacy. I can say this, as we've seen things play out globally, local markets, local economy, the prices of goods and services continue to rise and increase every day, and I don't expect those things to stay the same year over year. So if that changes, then there's an expectancy that the adequacy budget changes, which would mean that that local fair share would increase as a result of that as well.
And that was a really nice way of putting it. But in your experience, you haven't seen it go down.
No, I haven't.
Right. So then one could expect, to
Yeah.
Mr. Gray's point, that would.
And I just want to add one more thing to it, right? So I was, so I'm a homeowner, and also I send my kids to Plainfield Public Schools. But one of the most important things that I did during the pandemic was that I refinanced at 2.5%, right? So many people are riding that high of having that equity in their home and then having to refinance at 2.5%. And while a tax increase is not something my family is excited about, we realize that it's a funding obligation for us to fully support teachers, students, and yeah, I'm just not used to the enthusiasm around me speaking, so forgive me. So yeah, no, we realize that there's I'm willing to commit to the funding obligation of increased taxes, and I think at 18%, many people in the community sort of said like, hey, we're willing to do that. We're willing to come together as a community in order to support the schools. So I just want to add to that it wasn't that the community was going towards a 0% increase. They just felt like at 36%, the way it was done, it wasn't really justified. And again, I hate to put it out there, but in our Finance and Operations Committee, we never got a tax increase. We never got any information about a tax increase. So we couldn't have that conversation to fully weigh what the community was going to respond to. And I think that sort of created its own maelstrom and its own problems. But I just wanted to say, as a homeowner and someone who sends their kids to Plainfield Public Schools, I can stomach an 18% tax increase.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions by? Your questions can wait to public comment, ma'am. Do we
Yeah.
have any other questions from commissioners at this time?
Just regarding the organizational chart, I wanted to get an opportunity to look at what it currently is, to compare. I know you explained what some of the changes are, but I wanted to see if you can provide us.
No problem. We'll provide that for you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you.
Okay, before I
It's
speak,
all- I want to say, if you want to pull it up, it's on the district's website now as well, if you want to pull it up real time.
okay. Nick, do you see if we have questions from the commissioners that are
It's in
online?
the agenda.
Okay. All right, so since we don't have any questions from other commissioners, I actually don't have questions per se, but rather just want to give some points of clarity and make some statements surrounding what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners and hearing the very exciting claps and the support from the crowd that we have here today. So I just want to make sure that in articulating this budget that you help the audience understand the difference between the last 2% that was proposed and the 0% when it comes to that dollar amount and how those cuts, how that money that we're taking from the reserve or how the different percentage, just can you provide that dollar amount and then can you speak to that, I'm not sure the exact words that you use. Our union president can speak to it briefly, but the floor falling from the bottom. Can you just articulate that again and then explain what that means, but then on top of that, share the difference between the 2% and the 0%? Because with going with the 2%, we stood to make a certain dollar amount, I think was roughly a little over 500,000, and then with the 0%, obviously that's 0%. But just re-articulate that so that it's clear and so that we understand that it wasn't such a large impact. And so when you're thinking to increase taxes, I'm a homeowner here too with children going to the school district, and while I do not mind giving my fair share, the increase on my taxes would be larger than increase on someone else's taxes. In addition to that, yes, we want to continue to support our teachers and our staff across the district in various roles and ensure that we're not cutting that. But at the same time, we do still have to look at, listen to the concerns of our residents living here in the city of Plainfield. And we have no way of gauging exactly what they would have supported or what they wouldn't have supported. All we can do is listen to the concerns of the residents, whether it came to board members directly or whether it came to the administration, whether we read it in social media or in news outlets and saw the alarming responses to it. We have no way of knowing that unless we added it to the ballot and we had the community vote on it and then it failed or denied in that way. I mean, passed or failed that way. So I just want to be clear that we're not stating that we're against a tax increase, I think, when we decide, oh, we want to entertain other options outside of the two original ones that were proposed, and then the 2% and then go into the 0%. I think that we're all in favor of ensuring that we can get as much as we can, whether that be a tax increase or not. But when you have to take a step back and figure out how you can then implement a process. Commissioner Gray just stated how in the committee he didn't hear about a tax increase. Whether that's true or not for him or for
It's
other
absolutely
members
true,
of the
ma'am.
committee.
It's absolutely true.
Okay,
There
I'm
was
not
no
here to
tax
debate
increase
you.
that was introduced
Commissioner Gray,
into our Finance and Operations Committee
I am not here to
meeting.
debate you. I need you
It's not
to
a debate.
allow me to speak.
The minutes are there.
You've spoken. I need you to allow me to speak. Now, I was not there, and I can only speak my own truth. Whether or not what he says is the same sentiments as any other member in the committee, what I'm saying is, if that was not articulated, that speaks to the point of ensuring that from one budget process to the next, between now and next budget process, from the time you start it to the time we get here to actually have a vote, there needs to be transparency, there needs to be clear lines of communication, there needs to be information disseminated to the community, the staff, and everybody else to make sure that they understand why the tax dollars are being increased, where the money is going, how it's being spent, what we could potentially cut along the way so that we don't have to get to a point to make major cuts all at once. Again, no
And that
one's
wasn't in the
jobs
committee
are at
meeting.
stake at the
You
moment.
can- and the public can review the
I need you to
minutes.
relax because I am talking. I gave you an opportunity to talk. I sat and listened, just like I did with
Point
everybody
of
else, and I
clarification.
deserve the same
Point of
respect.
clarification. Point of clarification.
Thank you.
Point of clarification.
There's no
So if the,
clarification
so the
needed.
point of clarification,
Excuse
point
me.
of clarification, the minutes
Sir,
are
I
there
need
for
you to
review
relax.
for everyone.
Cool.
The minutes are there to review for
I
everyone.
need you to calm down. Thank you. So with that said, I just want to make sure that we're all clear on the process and the outcome of the process and what 2% means as it compares to the 0% when it comes to the actual dollar amount that we're going to procure, whether we do a 2% or whether we do a 0%.
So,
You all will have time to speak during public comment. I'm asking that you be respectful and listen, please. Thank you.
just so I'm clear, you want to know the difference between the 0%
That dollar
and the
amount,
2%?
if we brought in that funds from the tax levy increase of 2%, what is the dollar amount that we would get to the district?
$585,123.
Okay.
And
now,
that's with the increase for the enrollment adjustment that's allowable. So in excess around $500,000. The additional $9 million that I was asked for in the original proposal, that is $9 million out of $31 million that has been accumulated over the past few school years by us not increasing the tax levy. And I will say, I hear what's being said about the communication and the feedback. This budget cycle is not like any other. We're receiving information from Washington. At times, we are seeking guidance, but are unable to receive it from Trenton throughout this budget process because there's so many uncertainties, which I've tried my best to explain and communicate multiple times. The budget proposal meeting that took place on March 18th, that is not the end-all, be-all. That meeting was the opportunity for me and my administration to make a proposal to the board. The board had from that time, whether it was approved that night or whether it was a different scenario selected, up until tonight to contemplate and make a final decision to adopt the budget. So it still hasn't happened because no formal vote has taken place tonight. I started off the presentation by stating that those steps along the run where difficult conversations had to take place, feedback had to be received, it happened. It happened at subsequent board meetings. It happened on March 25th. It happened on the subsequent committee meeting that took place. It also happened at the April board meeting that took place earlier this month. There have been multiple touch points along the way. And while those touch points have been different than they have been in the past, they have in fact happened, and everyone has had the opportunity to speak on the budget proposal, the original proposal from March 18th, the proposal on March 25th that had $4.6 million in reductions, and again tonight on the proposal that shows a budget that includes $9.5 million in reductions in deferred expenses to future budget years. This is a tough conversation. I don't think there's, as I stated to Madam President earlier, I'm not sure what the answer or solution is that makes everyone happy, because we're talking about something that's very near and dear to everyone. Like you just talked about it from your personal perspective as a taxpayer. Like this is something that impacts everyone differently. My goal as a superintendent, regardless of what the circumstances are, my job is to make sure that to the best of my ability, I can provide every student in this school community with a thorough and efficient education based on the resources that are allotted to me, and I serve at the pleasure of the board.
thank you. If we don't have any further questions, I'm done. Nick, we don't have any further questions, right? Okay. Seeing as though we don't have a legal update, then we can move forward to public comment, Mr. Cox.
Motion to open public comment.
So moved.
The Commissioner Vice President Webb, and then second by
It was
Commissioner
properly
Gray.
moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Andrews that the board now go into public comment at this time. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right? Motion carried. I'll now read the.
One second. He
I
has
have
to read.
have to read the. At business meetings, privilege of the floor will be provided for 30 minutes for the public prior to committee reports. Members of the public in attendance will have the opportunity to raise concerns during this period of the meeting. Members of the public may speak once for a maximum period of 3 minutes by the clock. This time is not transferable from one individual to another.
All right. We will have the first person up to the mic now.
Privilege of the floor is now open.
Please state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, my name is Robbie Campbell Assad, and I live at 1302 Marlborough Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening.
As a parent and a taxpayer in the district, I'm deeply concerned about the recent budget decisions. Traditionally, budgets are presented with a range of scenarios, best, base, and worst, to give the community a clear understanding of the options and trade-offs. Unfortunately, the initial proposal lacked structure. Instead, it presented a 36% increase that felt extravagant and poorly justified. It was like being offered a steak, a good steak, on a flimsy paper plate. Flashy on the surface, but lacking real substance. There was no measurable outcomes for students, no clear justification for the increase, and overall, the presentation was confusing. That said, I appreciated the revised base budget that the superintendent presented at the April 15th meeting. It was evident that some thought and care had gone into reducing unnecessary expenses, postponing travel, and even the accessible ramp for the visitor side. It seemed like it was reasonable, and I was behind it. But what followed was both surprising and concerning. A motion from the board vice president for a 0% tax increase. The superintendent made it clear that this move would derail our strategic plan, result in staff layoffs, and cut essential programs directly harming students. How could you consider this? If I'm someone who ran for the board and I lost to candidates who I really believe in fact, their platform emphasized empowerment through education and literacy. That message resonated with me. It focused on student-centered leadership. And now I must ask you, where is the student leadership now? Have you forgotten the community that trusted and elected you to support our students, teachers, and families? What's driving the decision for a 0% is it in the best interest of students, or is it politics? Is it driven by your politics? Is it driven by elderhood? Is it driven by personal loyalties?
Quiet down, please.
You did not take the job for politics, professionals, or relationships, or brotherhood. Do the right thing. I have some questions. What specific measures are in place to ensure that our special needs students will not experience reductions in services or supports? Why haven't you listened to the community members? You mentioned social media. I hope you don't use that as a gauge. Because even when you're writing books in college, you can't use them as a resource. So I hope you look into other things besides social media. In fact, I was kind of concerned that you said that. How will the administration clearly communicate the real-life effects of these decisions on students, families, and school staff? If the district fails to meet the strategic goals this year, and there will be cuts, again, thank you, Mr. Hassan, for being very honest and transparent. Next year, the increase will be large for homeowners. It will be very impactful for us.
Ma'am, that is your 3 minutes. Ma'am, that is your 3 minutes.
Motion to extend time.
We'll have the next person up,
Rescind the
please.
motion.
Am I,
Keith Costa Jr., President of the Plainfield Education Association. And while I was going to stand here tonight and read a letter from one of our members in the going to read a letter from one of our members, Mr. Joel Plummer, who is a taxpaying resident of this town. Since everybody is speaking their truth, I'm going to speak my truth. And my truth is the 1,318 members of this association bust their behind day in and day out. And while they may not be seen at the glitz and glamour events, they are seen at math nights at Jefferson School. They are seen at school dances at Evergreen. They are seen at back to school nights. These are the individuals who show up day in and day out, whether it's 7 a.m. before they have to clock in because they're working with students, whether it's 7 a.m. when we have some of our staff members who are not getting paid standing around with students because we know that their parents have to get to work early, or whether they're there at 6:30 at night working with our students. These are individuals who come to work and show up and go to bat for the students and families of Plainfield, and we are asking you tonight to go to bat for us. We are not standing here simply because it's just about us. We are standing here because the expert in the room, as I said last week, said that this is not going to work. That next year we are going to be, or could possibly be, in a bigger financial issue. This is not a game. We cannot get here next year and say, oh, we should have listened to the person who gave us the information. This individual is saying that we are staring down the barrel of a gun and we are playing Russian roulette because this year we don't want to raise taxes, but next year we may decide to raise taxes. If our fair share is 65 million and we are at 26, and whoever the governor is next year decides that they don't like the funding formula and decide that they are not going to fund us an extra $5 million or $10 million, what are we going to do then? I am asking you to look around the room and look at these individuals who you may not see at a board meeting, who you may not see at a Black History Month event that is put on by the district, but I can guarantee you that the parents, students, and families of this district see these individuals every day because they show up for those students, they show up for those families. And I'm asking you tonight to not only show up for the community, as you said you've heard from, but to show up for the people that go to bat for you and your children. Thank you.
Next person up, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Balch. I live at 1314 Highland Avenue, and I'm here to talk about reading. So I get emotional about it, so forgive me. When I started getting interested in the Plainfield school system and the quality of education that the students are receiving about 5 years ago, I did some research on what's happening in education circles. How are students being taught to read, and what are the support systems in the schools? I was astounded to learn that for decades, 2 or 3 decades, our students, my children included, were taught reading according to a system that has since been found to be at fault for causing reading problems, not solving them, but causing them. Fortunately, our district, like many across the nation, have changed the curriculum. Dr. Jean Gordon was instrumental in changing the kind of programs that she buys and distributes to teachers, and the kind of support that she gives teachers to deliver the instruction these students need. Reading is one of the hardest things I've learned that human beings do. The complex combination of things that we need to master in order to actually read are big. They're very big. It takes consistent and daily practice, and it takes teachers to deliver that kind of instruction so students gain these skills. Literacy coaches are critical to that process. I'm not a teacher, I'm not a literacy coach, but I have to give them a shout out. I've been involved in running a reading in the classroom and book giveaway program over the course of the past year, and we have 8 or 9 or 10 volunteers who come into the classrooms and read to the children and give away books. And the literacy coaches, oh my gosh, I mean, talk about the gentleman before me. He said these people, along with the teachers, I have never not gotten a response from a teacher, whether it was on the weekend or the vacation. They've always responded to me. They work tirelessly for these children. So when we're talking about cuts, I hope that the priorities are in many of the areas that the superintendent has already offered. That I think those are wise decisions. Those are wise cuts.
Mrs.
But to
Bolts,
cut
that's your time.
literacy coaching and teaching and teachers' positions are like shooting ourselves in the foot to get these kids educated. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll have the next person up. Yes, you can come on up.
Can everybody hear me? Hi, my name is Dr. Boyd. I speak on behalf of myself and my husband, the other Dr. Boyd. We live at 711 Marshall Place. We've been in the Plainfield community for 20 years. And unfortunately, I could say that the majority of my children have been educated in private school. They do not attend the Plainfield education system, except my two all spent 2 years in middle school here. And I've gladly paid my taxes all 20 years because I realize this is bigger. It's about the community, because not everybody can send their kids to private school. So I do understand that. So I understand what we have to do as people who own property in this community. What I don't understand is what are we cutting and how that's going to affect our kids. I have 2 questions. My first question is about the transparency. When I look on that list and I see special services, I think about my oldest daughter who's high functioning autism. She's a child on the spectrum. She's thriving in other communities. I know there are children in Plainfield School District that's being left behind. I work with their parents. So what is the transparency for understanding what those services are before you cut? The same transparency you have with the budget, we want to see the transparency with the services, down to the titles, the schools, and the ages. That's the kind of transparency we need, not only for special education, but I'm a parent who appears to have everything, but I had a child in a crisis 2 weeks ago, in a crisis, and her teachers and those counselors, they stood up and helped my child, this perfect person in this perfect environment, in her health and mental crisis. So you cut those services, not those students. The students are going to be the people who are affected by that. It's not about reading, it's not about math, because if they're not whole individuals, what is education going to do for them? So I think we have to think about that. My second question is, you asked me as a homeowner to pay taxes for schools that we've got to build up because, yes, we've got an influx of students in this community. I look around, I see buildings everywhere. There's new developments, new businesses moving in. What is their fair share? So what are they paying? There should be a pay to play in our community. We're letting them come to our community for free. They should be helping us. If we're building apartments, where are those children going to go to school? That should be done ahead of time. So I feel it's irresponsible for the board to come to me as a homeowner. I'm willing to do what I have to do. But I feel it's irresponsible when I can look around me and see all the development and say, what are you doing to our community? How is that money coming back into our community? So before you ask me for money, we need to be asking these businesses and those associations, what are they willing to pay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, Board of Education. I'm Lori Davis, 15 Raymond Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. I stand before you again as a homeowner, parent, and employee of Plainfield Public Schools to request you honor the previous budget proposals presented by Mr. Hassan, in which he requested a tax levy to support the superintendent's 2023-2028 strategic plan. We are gearing up on year 3 of the plan, which has documented proof of the improvements for Plainfield Public Schools. Strategic goal number 2 speaks to teaching and learning. How can we improve on instruction? By dismantling instructional coaches. Have you ever watched a sports team achieve a championship without a coach? Even on a personal level, people desiring to improve their lives will seek a life coach. Even our administrators have coaches. As an ESL instructional coach for 4 schools, I support 16 ESL teachers, 4 world language teachers, who enrich the lives of hundreds of students. So inadvertently, I actually help hundreds of students. Some of my colleagues have stated, Ms. Davis has advocated for site-based ESL PLCs to improve collaboration. Coaches like her are essential for us to grow as teachers and give our students the best support possible. Because of her time, effort, and demeanor, I have grown more confident and reflective in my practice. She and other coaches are crucial for ongoing professional development and growth. Strategic goal number 1 speaks to culture and climate. I have witnessed the unfortunate events of what occurred in East Orange Public Schools, and currently they are still protesting. When you cut jobs, rearrange staffing, and minimize programs for our youth, you are not allowing goal number 1 to reach its potential. School districts currently, like Toms River, are selling school property, and school districts like Lakewood are closing elementary schools. By being fiscally responsible, we currently have a surplus, so by requesting a tax levy at this time, we are being proactive to not only keep the things we have in place, but to continue our ongoing advancement of Plainfield Public Schools. I ask that you keep instructional coaches and all personnel by reconsidering the previously proposed tax levy request, so Plainfield Public Schools can continue striving towards our mission statement. We, in partnership with our community, even if that means that they have to pay a little bit more taxes, are accountable for creating a safe, inclusive, nurturing learning environment for all students to achieve their maximum potential. And I will also include the ending of our former mission statement. No alibis, no excuses, no exceptions. Thank you.
Next up.
Good evening. Laura Miranda Brown, 1345 Highland Avenue. Please excuse my voice. The allergy season has been a hard one so far. I am coming here to reiterate the statement that I made last time around, where I commended the district for revising their plans, cutting back on some of the capital improvements, and revising the proposed budget so that the tax levy increase would go from 36% to 18%. I think it is a little bit confusing to the public when we use both percentages and then the flat tax rate. So I just want to be clear on which proposal I think we should go with. I think you found very little pushback from the community on an 18% increase. It felt like a middle-of-the-road solution. The superintendent said it would not impact staff if we raise those taxes to that amount. And I trust him. I trust him at his word that with that funding, our staffing levels would stay the same, that our coaches would stay in their position, and that our students would continue to be able to receive the benefit that we are working so hard to give them. I was a member of the instructional committee for the strategic plan. I worked very closely with the people in my group, which included teachers and included Dr. Gordon, who was able to explain to us as residents and non-professionals what goes into teaching these students and how curriculum works and how we needed to better train our staff if we were going to change curriculum. That was incredibly helpful, and so I am a little disappointed, no, strike that, very disappointed to see that in this reorganization chart, it looked like, to me, that perhaps Dr. Gordon was being moved around. And I am very, very upset about that. I have been able to ask her questions. She is a community resource, and she is an advocate for every single child in this district. And so I hope that she is not being moved. So, putting aside everything else, I'm delighted to see all the teachers here. I'm sad that they had to come out here at all. It was shocking when Mr. Webb put forward a 0% tax increase last meeting that came out of nowhere. I find it a little disingenuous to imagine that Madam President was unaware that he was going to put that forward. And I, like Ms. Campbell, like Ms. Lissad Campbell, have to question why, during an election season, when the president of the board shares the same last name as somebody who was running for mayor, has voted for a 0% tax increase against the urgings of the paid professionals who we hire, who have budgetary experience, like Mr. Cox and Mr. Hassan. Please, all of you at this table will be responsible for the diminishment of services, for the gutting of our students' education. Voters will remember, and you have turned this into politics. Please vote your conscience.
Good evening. My name is Jody Byers. I've been a district employee for 29 years. I've worked and been committed to this district. I come and do extra duties. I come to back to school night. You might not see me at Board of Education meeting because one, they don't start on time, and two, they will be here at 12 o'clock.
Thank you, Madam President.
I don't understand how we cannot do a tax increase. We cannot afford to lose our coaches or any of our staff. And we are short this year, but it's going to happen in 26-27 year. Who is going to have a parent contract for transportation? Because at Booker, the only children being bused are special education or displaced children. What is going to happen to those drivers? We are a district with schools in status. How does this affect those schools? How does this budget and the cut of our staff connect with the district's strategic planning? Specifically to Goal 2, Teaching and Learning, and Goal 3, Finance. Plus, how does it affect the culture and climate of Plainfield Board of Education? That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board Commissioners, Board President, and Superintendent Hassan, and my Plainfield family. Lori will be handing out folders for all the board members and the chiefs from our multilingual department. Recommendations by teachers. In 1996, I walked into my very first classroom at Cook School, right here in Plainfield. I was 26 years old, nervous, hopeful, and holding tight to a dream I had carried since childhood. I loved teaching. I believed in my students, but the truth is, I was overwhelmed. There were no instructional coaches back then. No one to help me think through a lesson, troubleshoot a tough day, or simply say you're not alone. I stayed after school long into the evenings, revising plans, questioning my choices, and wondering, sometimes with tears, if I was truly making a difference. Looking back now, I don't think I lacked passion or ability. What I lacked was support. Someone to guide me, mentor me, and reminding me teaching is a journey, and we aren't meant to walk it alone. Years later, when I finally had access to an instructional coach, a great one, everything changed. I felt less isolated. I started trying new strategies, asking deeper questions, and seeing real growth. Not just in my students, but in myself. That coach didn't just help me teach better, they helped me believe in myself. Today, as a coach, I carry that mission with me every day. Sometimes that means sitting with a teacher to look at data and plan next steps. Other times it's helping a new teacher handle behavior or setting up learning stations that meet students' needs. And just as often it means working directly with students, modeling lessons, co-teaching, and supporting small groups right alongside the teacher. Because coaching isn't just about the planning. It's about being present in the learning. Even a quick check-in, just asking, how are you holding up, can mean a lot to a teacher or a support staff. Because behind every strong classroom is a teacher who feels supported, and teachers who feel supported are far more likely to stay. Teacher retention isn't just about the contracts or the paychecks. It's about relationships. It's about building a culture where teachers feel valued, heard, and empowered to grow. Coaching plays a key role in that. When teachers have someone walking in the journey with them, they are more likely to stay in the profession and stay here in Plainfield where they are most needed. And I'm not alone in this. Across our district, instructional coaches are making a quiet but powerful difference. One teacher said to me, to one of my colleagues recently, I think coaches
Ma'am,
aren't...
that is your time.
That's it?
Yes,
Motion to extend.
Say, motion to extend.
We got a lot of people here.
Oh,
A motion to
going.
extend.
yes?
Nick, can you confirm how many people we might have online that need to speak? Okay.
Second.
Keep going? Yes?
No,
I-
no, hold on. It's been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Vice President Webb to extend this person's speaking time. Heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed have the same right?
Now?
Yes, you may proceed.
You may finish.
I think coaches, one teacher said to my colleague recently, I think coaches are an important part of our teaching experience. New and veteran teachers benefit from your support. We are lifelong learners, and you remind us of that every day. Another teacher shared with me, the kind of help Miss Miller gives isn't just for new teachers. Even after all these years, she's still giving me something new to grow from. And a first-year teacher beamed when she told a colleague of mine, what I love most about my school? The support. I never felt alone because my coaches are there. That's what coaching is all about. We're not just here to watch, we're here to support, step by step, side by side, to build trust, to celebrate wins, to work with students and stand beside teachers as they try something new, to pick them up when they're tired and remind them their work is changing lives. Tonight, I stand here for all Plainfield's amazing instructional coaches. Our mission is simple. Support the teachers so they can support the students. Because when we invest in our educators, we show them they matter. We help them stay. We help them grow. And we build a district that can retain great teachers for years to come. Teaching will always come with challenges, but no teacher should ever face them alone. You deserve support, connection, and a community that lifts you up. Together, we are stronger. Together, we rise. Together, we build the kind of schools Plainfield children and Plainfield teachers deserve.
Good evening, members of the board, administration, and community. My name is Danielle Alfredo, and I'm a first grade inclusion teacher at the Charles and Anna Brooker Elementary School. I'm here tonight to speak not only as an educator, but as a data analyst and longtime market expert with 20 years of senior level experience in market studies, including studies conducted right here in Plainfield. Tonight, you will hear many speak about the importance of preserving programs and positions. I want to approach this conversation from a slightly different but critical perspective. The direct link between school funding and the local economy, especially your property values. Let me first paint a picture of my classroom. I teach 24 students. 4 students have IEPs, 3 students are in the process of receiving IEPs, 4 students are English language learners, 4 students entered reading on a 2nd to 4th grade reading level, while others began far, far below grade level. This is not what inclusion should look like. It's too broad, but here we are, already short in proper placements and programs. Despite that, the growth these scholars have made this year is something I am incredibly proud of. But it's important to understand their success is not due to my efforts alone. It takes a village, my co-teacher, teaching assistants, interventionists, coaches, and administrators, all working together to ensure no child is left behind. Now, beyond the walls of the classroom, strong schools strengthen communities. Real estate values are shaped by three major influences: social, economic, and governmental factors. Education is at the heart of all three. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, every dollar invested in public school funding, property values increase by approximately $20 on a per pupil basis. In Plainfield, the median home sale price has grown from approximately $250,000 a few years ago to nearly $495,000 today. This is not an accident. It is a direct reflection of the improvements in our schools, our programs, and our ability to meet needs of the diverse student body, including multilingual learners, low-income families, and students with special needs. However, this stability and continued growth of real estate market is fragile. Budget cuts, staffing reductions, and underfunding risk reversing these hard-fought gains. Once school quality declines, the impact of home values is swift, and recovery is slow and costly. Have you taken the time to carefully review the district's navigated reports of Plainfield, how they currently compete with neighboring districts across New Jersey? I have. We are holding our own, but we are doing so with great effort against significant challenges. We simply cannot afford to lose ground. Cutting staff and services would just harm our students. It would diminish. I'm almost done.
Ms. Fredo,
Motion to extend.
I just, before the board puts in a motion pursuant to policy, that was the 30 minutes, as well as Mrs. Fredo's speaking time, so I just want to put that up.
So, motion to extend the public comment.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Gray to extend public comment in the length of how long, sir?
30 minutes.
It's not your motion.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Till we're finished, to the,
Till the last person
The
over
person
there?
that's in line?
the last person
Standing.
Keisha, right there? All right.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion is, for clarification, by Mr. Andrews to extend public comment until Mrs. Gay Pinedo finishes her public comment. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
1 second, Mr. Cox. I just want to double check to make sure. Nick, do we have anybody online? We still have none online? No. Okay.
All right.
I'd like a point
Are you
of
ready for any
clarification.
other question? Are you ready for any other
I'd like
question?
a point of clarification. So if we're hearing the comments to the end, are we just going until they end the comments? Does that include any extensions?
Well, the
Is it
mo-
open-ended until they end? Because this could,
The
They still have
motion
3
for-
minutes.
The motion from Mr. Andrews was to extend the public comment portion. The policy from the board still says that each person has 3 minutes.
got it. So that's 3 minutes until the end, not a certain time amount.
That would be my understanding, sir.
Got it. Okay. Fine.
Any other questions? There being none, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right? Motion carried.
Cutting staff and services would not just harm our students, it would diminish the quality of the life in your city, weaken your local economy, and directly devalue the investment of every property owner in Plainfield. People should be less worried about tax hikes and more concerned about loss of their equity. In short, protecting our school funding is protecting your home values. Protecting your staff is protecting your city's future, which is relied on students we educate today. That is the only way to truly move Plainfield forward. I urge you to reconsider. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Faye Bowie. I'm an intervention teacher here at Booker. This poster is not for y'all in the back. It's for y'all on the board. So you can read this, you can thank a teacher. That's all that I do here as a reading interventionist. The list goes on, and my colleagues who are here who know that I'm also on the chopping block in student services for losing my board could attest to everything, or losing my job, could attest to the board of everything that we do as interventionists. One of the most important things we do as interventionists is run the NJTSS meetings. Danielle. is we run those meetings. They're mandated by the state of New Jersey. It's the New Jersey tiered system of supports. Who will run that if I'm not running that? Who will run that in all the other elementary schools if we don't have interventionists? Not to mention, I can't do that very important state mandated job without the very, very important work that our school social workers do. And they are also in student services. I couldn't do my job without Hannah. I couldn't do my job without Tiffany or Dawn or Helen, our family liaison. There would be no way to advocate for our children who don't have special needs, who don't have IEPs, but who don't fit the mold of the general education population. What will happen to those children? Your test scores will go down. They will not be going on to middle school and high school. Our attendance rates will go down, and you will have a mental health issue that we will then be unprepared to deal with because our social workers are also on the chopping block. Thanks. Last, if I lose my job here, that will be catastrophic for me. You've been in my room. I think you've been in my room. I love what I do. I love teaching children how to read. I love taking the kid that nobody gets and figure out which program I can pick from to help that kid read a few words. We wrote a letter to you once. There's a lot that goes into what I do every day with my caseload, and maybe 30 kids isn't that much, but I couldn't do it without the help of my coach, without the help of my administration, without the help of everybody else who's working in student services, and I'm just one person in one school. This is every single school has 1 to 2 interventionists. If I lose my position, that will be devastating. My family will be okay, I will be okay, but this family will not be okay, and these children will not be okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Board Commissioners and Plainfield Public School Administrators and colleagues. My name is Joanne Barrett, and I have been an employee of the Plainfield Public Schools for the last 26 years. Currently, I serve as an instructional math coach for Emerson and Stillman schools, a position I also held in the early 2000s until it was eliminated by budget cuts. It truly saddens me to have learned from a shared screenshot of a Facebook post that I've come full circle, and currently all coaching positions face the same fate. Before I came to Plainfield, I taught for 15 years, but I can honestly say I learned how to teach in Plainfield. I benefited from instructional support from people like Jackie Dennis and Dr. Alice Alston. They modeled for me what quality instruction looks like, exactly what I strive to do every day for the teachers that I currently serve, as you will see from the letters that my colleague Lori has just dropped off. To say that my role and all coaching roles play an essential part in the success of the district is an understatement. In fact, I remember leadership in making statements such as, everyone needs a coach. Instructional coaches are as vital to the teaching staff as Michael Gordon's is to the PHS basketball team and Carlos Mendoza's is to the New York Mets. Unfortunately, I've been through several budget cuts in Plainfield, and it always seems that the greatest cuts come from the boots on the ground staff, whose positions have the greatest impact on student learning. My position is one example. I love what I do. What I do impacts the students greatly because I enhance teachers' instructional practices, which results in greater achievement from the students. And that's evidenced in the data of the teachers that I have worked with. It's heartbreakingly ironic for me that the town where I live, every single year, I get a letter from my mortgage company saying that I have an escrow shortage. And every September, I get a bill that reflects a new mortgage payment due to the increase in school taxes. Yet in the town where I work, I'm about to lose my position because there has not been a tax increase here in several years. I implore you to please try and find a way to keep the coaching positions, and all positions, which are such a vital position in the district. And I leave you with a question. When I'm returned to the classroom, do you believe it is a realistic expectation that I learn an ELA program, a science program, and a social studies program by September? And without any instructional coaches to turn to for guidance, where will my support come from? Thank you.
Hello? May I make a motion? May I make a motion? May I make a motion to rescind the 0% tax levy increase or decrease? May I make a motion?
Do we have a second on that?
May I make a motion? I can't do it during public comment? All right. I'll rescind the motion at this present time.
Good evening. My name is Felisa Sanders. I am a former Plainfield homeowner. I am also a proud parent at from Emerson School. I'm an elementary executive officer, and I have worked in Plainfield for 20 years. My current position is instructional coach. When you look up the definition of instructional coach, you will find this: an educational leader who supports teachers in improving their instruction and student outcomes by providing guidance, mentorship, and professional development opportunities. I and all the instructional coaches, the ESL coaches, the bilingual coaches, the math coaches, and myself, a literacy coach, do such, and special education coaches, do provide everything in that definition. My colleagues model lessons, explain programs. We're getting new programs again next year. Who will do that for them? We counsel new teachers who, just as my previous colleague said, are very scared when coming into a new situation, excited but not quite sure what to do. We counsel seasoned teachers. We also explain instructional programs, excuse me, and everything else. Almost every month, under the direction of our fabulous supervisor and curriculum superintendent, we create professional development on those half a days, and either for our PLC or for district-wide. We also do things such as the spelling bee and literacy nights. We do participate after school and before school. Unfortunately, not necessarily at the board, but we are there. Just past week, we were at Emerson's Literacy and Math Night. I wish all of you would have come the same way you implore us to come to the board meetings. We motivate students either by putting on bluey costumes, just our coach at Jefferson did that not too long ago. We also go inside of their classrooms and teach them in small groups. We analyze data for our teachers so that they can understand not only how to make decisions based on the curriculum that is given, but also what it says in front of the data so that we can continue to move forward and affect change. We are not ancillary employees, and I appreciate the superintendent saying that he feels that we are vital and essential. But we are exactly essential, as I said. We need you to please reconsider the zero-based tax increase, not only for coaches.
Mrs. Sanders, time is up.
Motion to extend.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Dr. Harris to extend Mrs. Sanders' time. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor? All opposed have the same right. Motion carried. Mrs. Sanders, continue, please.
Thank you. Not only for coaches this year, but for the sake of all positions next year. We need to keep our classes small, which will easily grow if you lose educators due to budget cuts. We need to keep our TAs, as they are vital to adding helping hands for our students who need extra resources and our youngest scholars. We need the interventionalists who help our scholars who are experiencing various educational challenges. Our young people are in crisis right now. Social media is taking over them and the pressures of the world. All counselors and social workers are essential. Our security officers keep us safe. Our IT personnel let us understand how it is that we are to use these Apple products. We need our custodians and we need our bus drivers. As a dedicated employee and a parent, I ask you, how can Plainfield truly move forward when personnel, services, and capital projects are decreased or stalled? You are asking our superintendent and his cabinet to move us forward with a tax levy made 6 years ago. Please reconsider the tax levy and increase. Plainfield students deserve all the staff, all the supports, and updated facilities so that we can shine. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, President Hyatt, members of the board, Superintendent Hassan, and members of the Plainfield community. I debated about coming up here to read just because based on the
Your name, ma'am?
Oh, Tiffany Giannakouros, sorry. Some of what I'm about to say doesn't exactly align with what was presented to us tonight, but I think it serves as a cautionary tale of what can happen if you vote yes on a 0% increase. So my name's Tiffany Giannakouros. I'm a licensed clinical social worker serving in the Plainfield Public School District in the role of district behaviorist. I come before you tonight not only as a professional in this district, but as someone for over 25 years has a deep commitment to the well-being and success of all children and families. You may view the number of staff that showed up today as an act of solidarity to save our jobs, but I want you to truly understand that you see these numbers of people who showed up today because they're committed to moving Plainfield forward. They are continued and committed to the care and support both inside and out of the classroom for all our children. If you move forward with a 0% tax increase, you will have direct human capital cuts. But I want to be crystal clear, you will also have critical cuts to our students and families. I ask you all to consider who will effectively develop and deliver equitable 504 and IEP services, who will provide and coordinate food boxes, who will complete HIB investigations, who will honor and provide space for students and families as they're navigating critical issues, who will develop and deliver social emotional learning curriculum on a K through 12 level, who will conduct mediations, re-entries, support circles, who will continue to build on climate and culture, to provide coaching and intervention resources for staff and students, to address our significant issues of chronic absenteeism, who will assess for students' safety and well-being, who will link families to valuable and needed resources, who and how we will move Plainfield forward. While I understand and respect fiscal responsibility, these reductions will come at a cost we cannot afford. This year, the Student Support Services developed a Walk in My Shoes project across the entire district. I want you all to consider this walk. Our elementary school students are learning how to self-regulate, how to engage with peers, how to feel safe at schools. Yet many of these students come to us with trauma, housing insecurity, inconsistent health care, immigration issues, and many other stressors. Without support, we risk missing crucial windows for intervention and windows that shape lifelong learning. By middle school, this walk is even more complex. Students are navigating identity, peer pressure, symptoms of anxiety and depression. If we reduce access to support professionals at this stage, we force students to carry invisible burdens alone. We know that untreated emotional issues can lead to conduct issues, academic decline, and our chronic absenteeism. In high school, the stakes are even higher. Teens are facing rising rates of suicidal ideation, substance use, and violence. If they don't have access to a trusted adult, a social worker, a counselor, they are less likely to graduate and more likely to disengage from school entirely. This is the walk in our students' shoes. We cannot afford to underinvest in the well-being of our students. The risks to our children's mental health and academic success are too great. I urge this board to reconsider the 0% tax increase that will jeopardize these supports that all of our children need to thrive. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Davis. I am a teacher at Emerson Elementary School. I've been in the school district for almost 30 years now. I am also a resident of Plainfield. My address is at 70 Pemberton Avenue. And I'm here just to share with you actually a very intimate and very meaningful need and desire for you to realize how critical our coaching staff is for us. Majority of my time here in the Plainfield School District, I've been an ELA teacher. Ask me about reading, I can help you. Ask me about writing, I have absolutely elevated my pedagogy with that. But when we came back from the pandemic and I had to pivot and to teach math, I was lost. It was almost 20 years since I had taught math. I'm thinking math was computation, was one strategy, nothing like how we actually teach our students now mathematics. And I would not have been able to get to that point since the pandemic to be able to teach mathematics to my 5th grade students at Emerson School, because if I didn't have a coach that modeled for me, and I listened to her every single time she modeled, my teacher's book is filled with a plethora of Post-it notes. Every single lesson that was modeled for me that I have been able to expand upon, and I've been able to reduce that learning curve that we need. And even as a veteran teacher, I just want to say how critical it was for me to have a coach to support me so I can teach my kids math. That's all I want to do. And I know that sounds very basic, but I know the apprehension, the nervousness, and the lack of confidence when it came to teaching these new skills and navigating the program would not have existed if I did not have a coach. So I just wanted to share that very personal experience with you and why it is so critical, even for veteran teachers, that we need that support. And I know we have PDs, as you said, that they will be able to incorporate additional training for us, but there's nothing like, come in my classroom, model it, let me hear it, let me see it, tell me how discourse sounds, show it to me, so I can then go ahead and build on those things that you guys want us to do when it comes to using our curriculum in both HMH and in iReady. And that's what the coaches provided for me. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is William Michael Tyree. I'm the media specialist here at Charles and Anna Booker Elementary School. Forgive me for not buttoning my jacket. I gained a little weight over Easter break. Believe me, I tried like a sausage. Why the children? When I was a child, I did not understand. I did not understand the decisions made by school districts. I did not understand budget cuts, program cancellations, layoffs, and the like. I did not understand how the decisions made affected the children. I did not understand why the children often underachieved, why the children often entered adulthood underprepared, or how underprepared adults were simply once children who lost hope. I did not understand why the children in more affluent districts with similar taxes did not deal with similar disadvantages. I did not understand why education was not fair. As a child, I did not understand that an overworked staff was often the result of an understaffed workplace, and that an understaffed workplace was often the result of an underfunded budget, and that an underfunded budget often resulted in undereducated children. As a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child, but I grew up. Funny thing is, as an adult, I still struggle with many of the same questions. Why always the children? Why should they have to suffer from a 0% increase that will most assuredly decrease their fair chance at success in life? Why would we expect less staff to educate more children effectively. My wife and I are blessed with 6 children. Pray for us. Why, with less than half the population of Plainfield in our hometown and a near identical tax rate, is the school district we live in not proposing 0%? But Plainfield is. Why doesn't the math add up? Why the children? Why always the children of color? My good friend's father, Rick Taylor, fought for the civil rights of people of color as the mayor of Plainfield 40 years ago. Charles and Anna Booker fought to ensure the fair and equal education of black and brown children in this district 60 years ago. So why, after all that was fought for, would we cut staff and bruise their right to education, leaving it black and blue? By the children.
That's a hard act to follow. Good evening, my name is Melissa Logan. I am the Vice President of the Plainfield Education Association, and I am a proud multilingual teacher at Jefferson School. This is my 25th year in Plainfield, all at Jefferson School. I came here as a young teacher and benefited tremendously from the intensive professional development offered at the turn of the century. Yes, I'm that old. As the years passed, the funding for instructional coaches dried up, and the leadership at the time moved on, and the superintendent office became a revolving door, and the district became very chaotic. But all that has changed. We have, for the first time since the days of Larry Leverett, the support our students and staff need to succeed. We have, for the first time since the days of Larry Leverett, a superintendent who has a vision, who is proactive instead of reactive. And we have, for the first time since the days of Larry Leverett, a strategic plan that was created by the community that guides every leadership decision we make. Superintendent Hassan has a business background and is known as a level-headed problem solver. He presented you with a budget that is proactive and meets the needs of our students. Those of us who have worked with him would call him level-headed, and he told you 2 weeks ago that if we don't raise taxes now, the bottom will fall out. He didn't say that for the drama factor. Believe him. Tax increases are on the minds of our community here and on the minds of communities across the state. My town, South Plainfield, we're raising taxes above cap in order to make sure there are adequate funds because they too are below adequacy level. Plainfield is in a more precarious situation than our neighbors because we rely less on our local levy than our neighbors do. With the federal government in free fall and the governor's seat up for grabs, now is the time to make our district a little less vulnerable. A 0% budget which defers critical facility upgrades, that kicks the can down the road to a future year when we can expect less money from the federal government and may get less money from the state. You are proposing not converting 1200 Myrtle into a school, permitting us to have additional secondary seats. If I am not mistaken, we are looking at a shortage of 700 seats at the secondary level. They need seats now. They can't wait for next year or the year after that or the year after that. On behalf of the association, I noticed the space for our students is being reimagined, training for our teachers is being reimagined, support for our students is being reimagined, and the people who keep our schools clean, efficient, and good as repair are being reimagined. I'm also left with a question of how our administration is being reimagined by the 0% tax levy. Sorry, they asked me to say that. If you believe in making sure we have quality training and support in our staff, if you believe our children should not be in an overcrowded classroom with boilers that work and roofs that don't leak, you should not support a 0% budget. If you want to execute the strategic plan and move Plainfield forward, vote for the proactive budget that the superintendent proposed on March 25th. We ask that you reconsider your zero budget and pass the revised recommended budget. Thank you so much.
Peter Ringley, 1345 Highland Avenue in Plainfield. I'm the proud parent of 2 Booker Badgers, and it's been great. I'm the proud parent of 2 Booker Badgers, and it's been great to see so many of their teachers and other administrators and support staff here tonight. I've been coming to these budget meetings for the last few weeks and observing them remotely as well. And one thing I just want to talk a little bit about the process where obviously the initial budget was a 36% tax increase. And I, like many other members of the community, was a little bit alarmed at that initial proposal. We came to the late March meeting and offered public comments and also heard a revised budget from Superintendent Hassan and CFO Cox, and I walked out of that meeting feeling like we felt heard, and it was still a tax increase of 18%, and one of the 2 key critical factors that I left that meeting pretty satisfied were no cuts to staff, and we were not drawing down the reserve. Lo and behold, a few weeks later, we heard another proposal for a 0% tax increase, which coming out of the late March meeting, it was pretty evident to me that that was just a devastating idea. We did not want to do that, and it would really leave our district in a precarious position. So I am asking the board to reconsider the proposal, eliminate the no tax increase, revise to the 18% late March budget increase. I'm a taxpayer here in Plainfield. I'm happy to pay that. I do not want to see our staff cut and our reserve drawn down. I really do feel like that is kicking the can down the road while also shooting ourselves in the foot. So I ask the board to reconsider the 0 tax increase. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Keisha Gay Pinedo. 830 Adams Circle, Plainfield, New Jersey. So thank you guys for opening. I'm doing comments before you guys go to the back and have discussion. Thank you so much for that, because I know that a lot of us want to go home because we're tired and we have work tomorrow. Thank you for thinking about us. I'm a lot disappointed in the 0% for the main reason that when you guys ran, you told me you're going to put children first, and I voted on that. I voted with the idea that you're going to put children first and make sure that we don't have issues like staff shortage or cuts or buildings that aren't getting cleaned properly because we don't have enough custodian. Teachers not getting the support that they need because we don't have enough instructional coaches. I voted for you guys to go and put our children first. And I told you guys this at the last board meeting. I'm super disappointed that that wasn't part of your plan. I'm very disappointed. And I hope that you go and rethink what you're doing so that we don't have to have cuts and shortage and hurt our children in the long run, okay? And I'm very curious as to know why we have cops here. Are they here to protect us? Thank you. Anyway, as I was saying, I hope that as every other district around that's surrounding us have increased their taxes, that we also do the same. I love the fact that Superintendent and Mr. Cox went together and came up with a budget that met the community halfway. The original was 36, and we were able to bring it to, they were able to bring it down to 18%, something the community can live with. We thank you for that, and at least you listened and you compromised. And I'm hoping that when you do this, that we don't have a 0%, because that was not part of the deal. That was never discussed with us. You just came out with that out of nowhere. And mind you, y'all know I come to these board meetings. There was very few people here when that happened. And I feel like that was a sneak attack. We shouldn't have done that. So in the next, could you guys go back and really think about how you're going to do this so we don't have shortage of our staff? I was part of the strategic planning committee, and I would love to see what we plan to go through. So I would really appreciate if you guys go in and do the right thing by our students and our staff. Thank you.
So I just want to make sure I'm following protocol, ma'am. I understand you said you're a taxpayer. The motion was to extend until Ms. Gay Pinedo spoke, because at the time she was the last one. So I just want to bring light to what the motion was, and if the board elects to allow you to speak, that's on the board.
Thank you. I was sitting there and not knowing that that was.
Motion to extend public
One
comment.
second, ma'am, 1 second. It was moved by Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, I heard.
Big move, I second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Andrews to extend for this last participant for public comment. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed have the same right? Motion carried. Go ahead, ma'am. Please give your name and address.
Did you say that I could speak now?
Yes, ma'am.
Give your
Go
name and
ahead.
address, you can speak.
Okay, as you can tell, I'm a senior, the white hair, born and raised in Plainfield,
Could you give your name, ma'am?
Jefferson School, Hubbard, Plainfield High School, and Plainfield cheerleader.
All right.
My mom went to the
Ma'am, can you
original
give your name,
Stillman
please?
School. What?
Can you give your name?
Leslie Uslin, 1075 Field Avenue. My mother went to the original Stillman School. As a senior, you know, I always dread paying taxes, how you accumulate the money quarterly. So 0% does sound good to my ears, but I know, and I'm also a retired teacher. I taught 41 years, Jersey teacher. I was also a leader in the union, so I understand all the enthusiasm. But I want to tell you my experience today. Catherine, who spoke before, who's with the literacy program, volunteering. I was at the Stillman School. I've been there a month or two. Today I read to a first grade class and a kindergarten class. Bilingual, mostly Spanish-speaking children who go home, I'm sure, to only speaking Spanish children. So the only opportunity for them to have English, I believe, I might be wrong, is in school. And I could see in their faces today and every time I come in, the thirst that they have to learn. But they're intimidated because they aren't comfortable speaking even in one sentence to me. And then to make them feel comfortable, I tell them I don't speak Spanish, I'm trying to learn, and they're like giving me a few words, and they have a big smile on their face. Now today, I've met the literacy teacher, and I feel that cuts should not be made, that we need more support in a bilingual community. Even today, the experience, I read them a book, one of my favorite books, and then they had to write what their favorite part was. Well, there must have been about 18 children in the class. But after I went around, there were only about 3 who could write more than 2 or 3 sentences. The others were illustrating, which an author does. They illustrate and they write. But they couldn't get the words out. So then I asked the teacher if I could stay, and I stayed another extra hour, and I worked with children. Well, I could have had the whole class line up. They wanted help. And I tried to make it, I felt like an octopus, you know, helping this one, but then we organized where I just had 3 at a table. Their needs are great. Again, I don't think they're speaking English at home. Then we gave them free books. The excitement of this program, the lunch book program, is fabulous. Today they got to pick 2 books. And then I was trying to help them with the sound. So the point is they need one-to-one. They need these literacy teachers. And I worked on the TH sound, which is, I always called the tickling tongue sound. And I made it fun. I even stood and sang Thumbelina so that they would get that th sound. And then I asked for volunteers. You give me 4 words that start with TH, 5 words, 7 words. Now, I made a little dent, but I walked out happy. Those kids made my day because they have a hunger and a desire to succeed, but they need the professionals to be there. So that's my story. And in my lifetime, I've worked on budgets, and I always told everyone, you have to be creative economics. Look for the money and make your priority the children. When I grew up in Plainfield, people moved to this town for the education. For many decades, they didn't want to move to this town for education. And I have to admit that in the last 15, 20 years, I have not been involved in coming to meetings. So I'm a little naive when the superintendent presents something and I don't hear cuts, but then I have upset union members, teachers, who know that things are going to be shifted around. So I'm naive, I don't know. I only found out from Facebook that it was 36%, and then the next week it was 0. So I don't know. There's got to be, we're imploding as a nation. Things are going to get worse and worse, and you know it. And we're going to be challenged. And next year it's going to be harder. And I don't know what money you need in order to keep everything status quo. But I do know, to be on a funny note, the boilers have to be fixed because Stillman School is hot. And I am beyond the age of flashes. And, I don't know why it was so hot. 2 months ago, even on a nice warm day, the boiler's going. So there's money to save. Money to save. The electric bill on that boiler at Stillman is big. Okay, thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to close public comment.
Motion, so moved.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Vice President Webb to close public comment at this time. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question?
I have a question. Public comment online hasn't been addressed as of yet.
So there was a couple of questions to the IT support team in the back, and no one had raised their hands.
Can you check if it's on now?
So that question would actually change what the board has already moved to do. So you can make a motion to extend it, but we said the board said that the public comment would close at the conclusion of Ms. Gay Pinedo, and then extended it again for the Mrs. Usling that stood up from Field Avenue.
Okay. Motion to extend public comment online?
You can't make a motion while there's a properly
There's a
made
motion
and
on the
second
floor. We have to finish
made
this motion first.
Yeah. So it's been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Vice President Webb to close public comment at this time. You heard the motion. Are there any further questions?
Let me take a second to honor Mr. Gray's request to rescind the motion. Briefly.
Why don't we just vote the current motion down and then respect his
That would be
motion?
the proper way
Got
to
that
do
back.
it.
Sounds good. In agreement.
We got the second already. We need to finish this motion, and then
So
there can be
if
another
if
motion
it's
on
the
the
board's
floor.
will to do that, they should vote the motion down. 'Cause it's already been
that's what we-
seconded.
that's what he-
We're waiting for the vote.
Yeah.
All in favor?
No.
All opposed have the same right?
Aye.
Okay, motion fails.
Nick, how many people do we have online?
You gotta make his motion.
Yeah.
I just needed to
I want to
know.
make a motion to open public comment. I'm sorry about that, Madam President. Make a motion to open public comment online.
Suspended.
So
So to clarify, your
We made the motion.
Yeah, to clarify, we're not opening it. It's always been open.
It's for the two
You're
people
extending it.
online.
Yeah, you're extending public comment.
Yeah, extended public comment, I'm sorry, let me make the motion clear. Extended public comment for online. May I please have a second?
Second.
That was Commissioner Andrews as the
I
second.
want to be clear. There are two people online. Are we extending public comment for the two people that are waiting to speak online?
Yes, just those two people online. I appreciate that.
Okay.
That second was Commissioner, I wasn't looking. It was you. It's been properly moved by Commissioner Gray and seconded by Commissioner Andrews to extend public comment for the two individuals online waiting to speak. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried. Nick, can you bring the first person over, please, sir?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. My name is Angie Sias Pagan, and I'm a resident at 157 Wiley Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. And I'm just going to be brief. Good evening to all the board members. As a Plainfield resident, educator, and single mother, I was deeply concerned about the proposed 36% school tax increase. While I understand the need to invest in our schools, such a sharp raise seems overwhelming, especially for families who are facing financial strains. At the same time, a 0% increase seems to be unrealistic. I believe a compromise such as the proposed 18% could be more manageable, especially if the board continues to review and reduce unnecessary line items. Someone made the statement that we shouldn't worry about tax being raised in Plainfield. However, I just felt like that statement was out of touch for those who are trying to be responsible with managing their own finances. We don't have board members advocating for us, right? I can't go to a board and ask for more money. So the same way I am tasked with managing my own finances, I hope the leadership in Plainfield does the same. Thank you for your time and consider a balanced solution. Thank you.
Nick, cue up the next person online, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. This is Quanae Palmer Chandler, 12270 East Front Street, Plainfield, New Jersey. I have been following this proceeding since the beginning, like many of you. And this is why we want our boards of education to be non-partisan, so that they can do what's in the best interest of our children without political pressure from the outside to do what's in the best interest of other people. And while I heard all of the heartfelt pleas, and I get you, I'm a former educator myself, education is expensive. But imagine what it costs when you're not educated, right? So it is worth investing in our children, investing in our community to make sure that they get what they need to the tune of whatever they need to get. But what happened after that number that Mr. Rashan and Mr. Cox came up with? What happened? You all saw it. Mr. Wyatt congratulated them for making a tough decision, but that was used as political fodder to say that they didn't have fiduciary responsibility and it was irresponsible and it would fall on the back of the homeowners. And then it became a situation where there were the haves and have-nots. and their voices were so loud and the pressure was heard, they said, okay, we'll give you what you want. And then when they gave you what you want, the very people who were online making all these disparaging remarks, all of a sudden now they're changing their tune. And I think that's totally unfair. And the reason why we have to keep partisan politics away from our Board of Education. Whatever you guys come up with as a compromise that'll make sure that the school budget and nobody loses their job, I'm here for it. I just wish that the voices that you raised today, you would have raised in opposition 3 weeks ago when Mr. White and this board was being dragged by City Hall and all of their supporters. I really wish this is what would have happened, and we would have come to a happy medium a long time ago. So I wish all of you teachers the best. I know that you do an amazing job. I know what it is to try to help bilingual learners. This is what I do at the library now with adults. It's a difficult task to do, and we need everybody in place to do the job. And I applaud you teachers, I applaud aides and everybody else who works in the school system to make our school system successful and thus our town. But keep that in mind on June 10th, how we got here and how we got to zero. Take care.
Motion to close public comment. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Is there a second? Been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Dr. Harris to close public comment at this time. Heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried.
Madam President, can I ask one just brief request in this time period? I did receive the letter from Dr. Joel Plummer. Given his status in the community, also as a school district, I wanted to seek your permission to reading out his letter, just in for the matter of public record.
Go ahead.
Just let me pull it up. Dear Plainfield Board of Education, though I am a PEA member, I'm writing this letter in my capacity as a Plainfield resident since 1978. A product of the Plainfield Public School District, Cedarbrook, 1987, Hubbard, 1989, and PHS, 1993. A homeowner and a parent of 2 children currently enrolled at Cook and 1 at Paz. This letter is being read on my behalf today because, like too many Americans, I work a second job to help make ends meet, so I cannot be with you tonight. That said, I still would gleefully sacrifice an increased portion of my yearly budget to help fully fund the school district. I recognize that as a Plainfield resident, my school tax burden is minuscule compared to what residents of surrounding communities pay. And even though the cost of everything in America has increased, I have not been asked to pay more to the school district in 6 years. No one desires to pay more in taxes, but we are hypocrites if we, as taxpayers, say that we love children and care about their future, yet are unwilling to sacrifice anything to invest in it. I shudder to think how much more difficult my life would be if my fellow Plainfielders had refused to fund my education. Now that I have reaped the benefits of a public education, it is time for me to repay the city that invested in me by financially contributing to the next generation of Plainfielders. I have no desire to shirk my responsibility to the city that made me, and I believe there's a quite quiet majority that understands the logic behind fully funding our schools. I believe they understand that public does not mean free. It means collective sacrifice for the greater good. I believe they recognize that the best way to increase the value of their homes is to increase the quality of the school system. I believe they understand that the quality of life for this entire city is improved by the school system, which provides not just academics, but also meals, counseling, and mentorship that allow young people to develop into leaders and citizens that this city and nation desperately need. I believe that the people of Plainfield understand what every single living organism on earth instinctively knows. The most important thing in life is protecting and providing for the next generation at any cost. I believe, I hope you do too. Sincerely, Joel Plummer. 1424 East 7th Street, Plainfield, New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. All right. Do we have any more comments or questions from members of the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget.
I do just want to, I do want to make one more last comment just in regards to the budget. I think we've all had an opportunity to kind of sit and listen to everybody. And I think a lot could be said, and I don't want to spend too much time repeating what I think community members did an excellent job of kind of saying. But you know, I'm going to say a couple of things. I fail to believe that when we as a board set the first time, we didn't understand the decision that we were making then. And though we might have differences about the opinions, we all understood that we were doing what was in the best interest of children. And then what's changed? I mean, it's been brought up, and it's the politics of an election, and perhaps a few bad headlines in the news. We claim to support the vision of the superintendent, who as a non-voting de facto member of the board, has been adamant that a 0% increase is not the vision that he had. It's important to reiterate what this means to the public, to our neighbors, to the students. Some of those faces that I saw disappointed in our last meeting after our decision to reverse course. A decision to move forward, a 0% increase means we are kicking our obligation to raise taxes in the interest of children, to meet our local fair share. And by passing on our obligation, we can now expect that the tax increase will be even more in the future. Not to mention the inevitable fiscal cliff as a result of our collective bargaining agreement that saw us increase pay and recognized across the country. A vote of 0% is not only unconscionable, I find it irresponsible. We were entrusted with making difficult decisions. We were entrusted with making difficult decisions on behalf of children, on behalf of students, with the trust of those who elected us that we are going to do all that is appropriate for the appropriate reasons. And I hope board members who have decided otherwise find a change of heart, understanding that the collective will of the people is the greatest force conceivable, and investment in children, our most valuable and vulnerable resource, is perhaps the most important action we will make. Thank you.
Any other commissioners?
I do have a question. Before we go into a vote, I just want to, if you can clarify, Dr. Hassan can clarify what the implications mean if we do not decide on the budget tonight.
The implications that are simple. The board would have to reconvene on or before May 14th to formally adopt the budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. To pass the budget, I believe that requires a majority of the full body, which means it has to pass with at least 5 votes.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion for consent agenda.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Sorry, I didn't hear what Mr. Andrews said.
So moved.
So moved. I'm sorry, Mr. Koch, just for my records, my computer died. What's the item, agenda number for the budget?
So there are only budgetary items on this evening's agenda. Under F, Office of Finance and Operations, are the relative resolutions applicable to the budget submission.
Sorry, F.
F, Section F?
Yes.
Items 1 through 5.
So again, I'm sorry, so moved. That
So
was
you
my
move
question.
to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, moved to
Okay.
approve.
Is
I'm
there-
sorry. No, we're voting to move towards the consent agenda, right?
So, okay, your motion, I just want to clarify.
Your motion is
Your motion to move those 5 items as a consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Hembry that the board move tonight's items as a consent agenda. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right? Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Hembry that the board approve this evening's consent agenda. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, I will call the roll on this. Commissioner Andrews?
No.
Commissioner Hembry?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
No.
Commissioner Dr. Harris? Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Webb?
I'd like to make a comment before I make my vote. I love the energy. I love the passion that we've all seen here tonight. I would like for this to continue forever and ever. I never want to hear another person say that Plainfield Public Schools is a failing district. And if anybody ever says it again, I want to hear the same passion. I want to hear them challenging those statements. I want to hear that same passion and energy for these children, because every time that someone attacks adults and uses Plainfield Public Schools as that weapon, the children suffer. The children suffer, and I've heard that over and over and over again. This is our opportunity to band together as a community. This is our opportunity to support Plainfield Public Schools unequivocally against anyone who doesn't. It's everybody's investment. Yes.
Commissioner President White?
Yes.
Madam President, this evening's final budget adoption does not pass with only 4 yeses and 3 noes. There will be a need for the board, unless there is an election to revote this evening.
I'll entertain a motion for the board to recess into executive session.
So moved.
Executive session. To consult with legal regarding next steps.
Hold on. Motion, I would like to make a motion to rescind the 0% tax levy increase.
I was getting clarification from legal. The motion was to rescind, to retire into executive session to obtain legal.
Legal, okay.
Yes, I believe based on what's occurred here, that the board needs to be at least advised legally of next steps before we move forward with the meeting.
Thank you.
So legal counsel clarified that to me prior to your motion, Mr. Gray, Commissioner Gray. Is there a second to retire into executive session?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner President Wyatt and seconded by Commissioner Andrews to retire into executive session for the purposes of legal update. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor? All opposed have the same right. Motion carried.
All right. I'll now entertain a motion to resume public session.
So moved.
Second.
And properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Andrews to resume this meeting in the public. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question?
Recording in progress.
There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried.
Okay, we've got our legal advice from legal counsel with regards on moving forward and the legal ramifications surrounding that. I'll now entertain discussion from the board on the budget.
If it's all right, I'll just entertain. You know, initially, when I came to the table, when I had a discussion around the budget, I was adamant about putting my foot on the gas, not necessarily slowing down any. But having heard from the community, I think a reasonable marriage in the middle might be that the 18%, which would be the 2% with a 4.6% tap from the bank cap. I'm correct, right? Just recording when I saw.
Original.
Right, it was I would say the probably second scenario we presented.
Mr. Cox, may you please clarify?
Yes, so the scenario you're mentioning was kind of like a midpoint, Mr. Andrews, and that is represented by roughly $4.9 million usage, roughly, in bank cap. That would also encompass a $50,208 enrollment adjustment, as well as the standard 2% tax levy increase once you add the enrollment adjustment.
And so, ultimately, that would bring us in, I'm assuming, about half of the original number from the very first day that we had approved it?
It would be equivalent to roughly $5.4 million.
Okay. And the roughly average increase for taxpayers would result to what? No, it's a tough one for you. My bad.
Grab my scenario.
I'm assuming with half the number, you're looking at about half the amount.
Yeah, but I just want to give you a more concrete.
All right.
So it'll be an increase on the averages. Yeah, yes, Mr. Hassan had already implemented. We're trying to work it out for everyone. Thank you. So it'll be a rough, Mr. Andrews, Mr. Hassan had already pulled up the shared table that we have to do the calculations. It'll be roughly $427 increase, average assessed home in Plainfield.
All right, and just a few more questions. That helps us close the local fair share by about how much going into?
Our local fair share stands at roughly $65 million. This would add $5 million to that. We would still be roughly half away from.
Okay. And my final question to the superintendent, if we take that type of action, again, splitting the baby, terrible phrase in the school, my apologies. But does that prevent us from having to make any of the draconian cuts we kind of saw a little earlier, or draconian changes we saw earlier?
It does.
I have a question. If a motion is made tonight to give you instruction to work on that, how soon will we be able to see some of the new proposed budget? Mr. Hassan?
Well, if I'm hearing correctly, what's being asked now is very similar to what I proposed on March 25th.
Yes.
So we'll go in and fine tune those initial reductions that were presented to the board and the community on that date. Obviously, taking into account additional feedback that we've heard and received from the community, making sure that we stabilize all of our staffing positions. That would be first priority, obviously. But we are prepared to provide that to the board as soon as close of business tomorrow. Stabilizing meaning putting forth a proposal that does not call for any reductions in staffing. and for us to take another look at any capital projects that we've originally proposed to be deferred to future years.
Any more questions or discussion from commissioners?
So, as I understand it right now, we're rescinding the motion or rescinding the 0% tax levy now? Do we need to do a motion to rescind that?
No, it didn't pass.
Okay.
There's no more discussion?
Any other discussion?
So now,
So, no more discussion. Can I make a motion to have our district administration revise the proposed budget with a with our May, was it March 26th?
March 25th?
25th, March 25th. The March 25th proposal that we saw, so that you guys will use those numbers, take those and revise for the consideration of the board.
I want to make sure, before I get the second on your motion, Mr. Andrews, I want to make sure I have the motion clear. So you want to, the motion is to have Mr. Hassan and his administration, the motion is to have Mr. Hassan and his administration to revise the tax levy increase reflective of the initial cuts made on the March 28th meeting. Those cuts were totaling $4.6 million from the initial bank cap usage of $9 million.
You had me confused, yes.
So then that would represent approximately a $4.4 million bank cap usage in addition to the enrollment adjustment and 2% tax levy increase.
Yes.
Okay. I understand the motion as you have said, Mr. Andrews. You've heard the motion.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Webb to have Mr. Hassan and his administration revise the tax levy increase reflective of utilizing the enrollment adjustment, 2% tax levy increase, and $4.4 million in bank cap. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, I will call the roll. Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Vice President Webb, sorry about that.
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Just a point of clarification, we're saying yes to the 18% tax levy increase.
Enrollment adjustment, 2% tax levy increase, and a bank cap usage of 4.4. I just don't want to conflate.
Oh, yeah, okay, absolutely, yes.
Commissioner Dr. Harris? Commissioner Hembry?
So what percentage are we doing?
So the usage would be of using $4.4 million in bank cap plus the enrollment adjustment and the 2% tax levy increase. She abstained. Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner President White?
Abstain.
The motion passes with 5 yeses.
I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. Second.
That'll be the first motion, Commissioner Smith. Is there a second?
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Smith and seconded by Commissioner Gray to adjourn this meeting in the public. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 10 p.m.